Hi everyone, if you've been watching the videos for my Cheltenham analysis so far, final day, but it is quite a busy day with lots of horses so far highlighted. So I'll try not to spend too long on some of them, especially if I've mentioned them in previous videos. There are a couple in here. So let's kick off straight away and we'll talk about the Triumph Hurdle. And there's two here that I've highlighted that I think are interesting. Bellex 1 is still interesting for me. Bellex 1 went off 4-5 in a 3-year-old maiden hurdle that Quilixios won last year, and Bellex 1 won it. And yet, since then, in October, very quiet. Not heard about Bellex 1. Currently 50-1 still for the Triumph Hurdle. Wouldn't surprise me if they ran a big race somewhere. You know, they could be targeting a Grade 1 somewhere next. If that goes and wins, suddenly it's going to be a lot shorter than 50-1. I just felt that the fact that they'd ran it in a race that Quilixios had won, it just, he's done nothing wrong over hurdles. Second and then 2 wins. Very difficult to assess Bellex 1, but I'm almost tempted to have a small bet on him now because I think it's a big price and overpriced on what it's actually done. It might not even turn up at the festival, but I think it will. But I think Bellex 1 is very interesting. 2-1-1 over hurdles, doing all the right stuff, winning the right races. Interesting. The second horse that I've highlighted for the Triumph is Porticello. Highlighted him after he won at Wetherby. Was very impressed with him. He then got beat at Doncaster. Now, when he got beat at Doncaster, he had to make the running, and it turned into they crawled early, and it turned into a bit of a sprint. And I just wonder whether that went against him. He obviously bounced back at Chepstow in the juvenile finale, winning a Grade 1, and is now third or fourth favourite, I think, for the Triumph Hurdle. I think he's probably one of the best British trained juveniles at the moment. The Irish do look strong, especially with Phil Dorr, who is going to take a lot of beating at the moment. But Porticello, I do think, will run a big race in the Triumph Hurdle. Moving on to the County Hurdle, and the first one I want to talk about is Goshen. He's dropping in the handicap and he's going to start getting very nicely handicapped. He's dropped to 149 now from 164. If he turned up in the County Hurdle, I'd be very interested in him. I would ignore his 8th in a champion hurdle. As a champion hurdle, he went off 11-2. If he turned up off 1-4-7 for a County Hurdle, having gone off the year before for 11-2 for the champion hurdle, that would be very tempting. And yes, he does have Cheltenham form. He has that unseated to his name. He was going to win. He was going to absolutely destroy them, wasn't he? He was going to win comfortably. He just wants the soft going. If he got soft going, which I don't think he's had it yet, I think if he can get soft going at Cheltenham, that would be very, very interesting in a handicap. I do believe or have heard that they don't really want to run him at Cheltenham, so the Betfair Hurdle could be where we see him instead. But as soon as it comes up soft and he's in a handicap, I'll be very interested in Goshen. So if Goshen doesn't run, who do I like? And I've already advised this one, West Cork. I believe West Cork actually came back lame after he ran at Ascot, and that would explain how he finished. He finished really, quite tamely after travelling really, really strongly. He's got form at Cheltenham. He won the Greatwood Hurdle. The Greatwood Hurdle has worked out quite well with Tritonic coming out and winning at Ascot. But West Cork travelled like the winner at Ascot and then didn't get home. I thought he'd bounced, which is where sometimes they can travel through the race and it's just at the finish that they don't have that finishing effort second time round, because he hadn't run since February 2020 when he then won at Cheltenham in November 2021. If it was just that he ended up lame and he got that, turning in or on the run-up, on the run-in, finishing fifth was a very good effort. He went off 7-2 that day for that handicap. I think he can get about 14s or 16s. I think I've advised him at 16s for the County Hurdle. We know Dan Skelton loves the race. We know those owners tried to win it last year with third time lucky and got it wrong. I think West Cork will take all the beating at this current stage in that race. The final horse I want to give a quick mention to is Chittabello. I personally think they'll go for the Coral Cup, but he is well handicapped. And if they did run here, it could be interesting. But I think they'll step him up and trim go for the Coral Cup. Right. Moving on to the Pertemps Final, I think there's quite a few here that I want to talk about, and I'll go through them as quick as I can. The first one, Panic Attack. Went off 8-1 for a champion bumper, 10-1 for a champion bumper in March 2020. Had a relatively good season over hurdles, then disappointed. Has had a good run this time in October when finishing 4th over 3 mile. First run over 3 mile. Hasn't been seen since. Are they plotting it? Is it Dan Skelton or David Pipe? David Pipe. Is David Pipe plotting this for the Pertemps Final? He's got him qualified now in 4th. That's all they needed to do that day. Could be very, very interesting. She could be. Yeah, I quite like her. The horse she actually got beat by, who won the race, was Kansas City Chief. That form has obviously worked out quite nicely with that winner going and finishing 3rd, 1st and 2nd since. Next horse, Pillion. I would only be backing him at Cheltenham. Although he won at Sandown, which was a great result for us, the form hasn't worked out very well. But you cannot discount horses that do run like this at Cheltenham. In 2020, he was 2nd in the Martin Pipe, just beaten by Indefatigable. Went 98.35% in the run shorter. If it turns up in the Pertemps Final, they're the type of horse that run well and, potentially place. This horse I'm a little bit more keen on, Dallas de Picton. I thought when he finished 2nd at Punchestown, which got him qualified for the race, he was given a very confident ride. The jockey was too confident, didn't want to get too close too soon, and possibly let the winner get away before actually making any effort. Then last time at Navan, I think he was ridden completely differently. Well, he was ridden completely differently. Went forward, made the running, and set it up for Commander of Fleet. I thought that was very interesting. A different ride when it didn't need to be. It's the sort of ride of Mrs. Milner. Mrs. Milner did something very similar. Went forward, dropped back, but qualified, and then turned up at the festival and they gave it a different ride. I think Dallas de Picton could get a similar ride. And obviously we know he's finished 2nd in a Martin Pipe, and then he was, where is it? Here, 5th, also in a Martin Pipe. The step up and trip looks fine for him. He's qualified for the Pertemps Final. He's very interesting. Another one who's interesting is Falcano. However, I wonder whether they'll drop him back to the 2.5, the Coral Cup. Similar to Mars Harper, I don't think he was quite staying the 3 mile trip. And I think they'll drop him back I don't think they'll drop him back to the Coral Cup. I think they'll drop him back to the Martin Pipe. Why? Well, he ran in it last year. He went off 15-2 and he fell at the first. I think they'll go and get compensation. When he ran at Navan recently over 2.5, he hit the front and looked like it was game over. Looked like he'd won the race and then got caught in the in the last 100 yards. Jockey went way too early. Shane Fitzgerald, went way too early. They'll be holding on to him a lot longer in the Martin Pipe, and I think he'll go really close in the Martin Pipe, not the Pertemps Final. Al Dancer, he wants better going, and he is well handicapped, but you would have to forgive him his run at Chepstow, and whether that Sandown form behind Pillion is strong, I'm not sure. So I'm not as keen on Al Dancer, but if he gets the right going, he is well handicapped, so it could be interesting. But the fact that I'm highlighting 7 or 8 here for the Pertemps Final does demonstrate that there's quite a few well handicapped horses or interesting horses in this race already. The next horse I want to talk about is Dunboyne, finished 5th in a qualifier and is trained by Gordon Elliott. Now, why is that significant? Gordon Elliott also had Ard Hill in this race as a reserve, but he didn't take any of his 2 out. He had Dunboyne and he had Dufflecoat, but he didn't take any of them out. And that just says to me that he wanted to get them both qualified, and he didn't want to take one of them out because he thought it had a good chance of getting qualified. Dunboyne seemed to be that one, not given a hard ride. He traded 88.07% lower in the run purely because he travelled well. Jockey didn't really do anything. Who was it? Jack Kennedy never asked Dunboyne for any effort. Ran on for 5th. Is one of those horses that they've targeted a handicap, and the Pertemps Final could well be where they've targeted. 2 more in the Pertemps. Winterfog obviously moved to Emmett Mullins. We know what Emmett Mullins is like with his horses. It's in the same colours as the Shunter. Finished 2nd. thought they went a bit early. You know, if it turns up in the Pertemps Final, it's going to go close. You know, Emmett likes to get horses that are ridiculously well handicapped. They might have realised it was during the run and gone, let's save it for the Pertemps Final. So Winter Fog has to be of interest as well. And the last horse, not even qualified for the race, hasn't had a run in a qualifier yet, is Third Wind. He's now dropped back to a mark that he could be competitive in. I highlighted him after he finished third at Ascot here when he was fifth. Third at Ascot here when he was fifth. When he was fifth at Ascot here back in December, I liked him for the Pertemps Final that day. He then went to Haydock and won, which ruined his handicap mark. But he has come back down the handicap, and I think he's off the same mark as when he was fifth when I liked him for the Pertemps Final. If they go and get him qualified, he has to be of interest going forward for the final. But at the moment, if they all turned up, I'll be like, oh dear. We could find the winner, but I might have to have 8 or 9 in the race. Moving on, we're going to have a Manila double. I'm not going to back a Manila double, but the next 2 horses are both Manillas. Manila Crooner, I thought he ran a really good race when second to Journey With Me at Leopardstown on his hurdles debut. Stayed on really strongly, probably stayed on better than the winner did. If they stepped them both up to 3 mile, I think Manila Crooner goes really well and could reverse that form. Manila Crooner was hardly noticed for the Albert Bartlett. I think that's where they run. The fact he started over 2-2 in a bumper suggests he wants a trip. You know, they didn't run him over 1 mile 6, 2 mile. They went straight for 2-2 in a bumper. I think that suggests he wants 3 miles. When he gets the 3 mile trip, I think it'll be very exciting. And he's one I'm tempted with for the Albert Bartlett already. I will have a look. If I see he's got an entry over 3 mile, that's when I might be tempted to back him for the 3 mile Albert Bartlett. Once connections have kind of agreed with me that he wants to step up in trip. The next horse, Manila Indo for the Gold Cup, has drifted to a nice price now, having finished third at Down Royal on his return. That wouldn't have been his main aim. And he pulled up at Kempton. Kempton's not a track that would have suited him. He's not a speedy horse. He's got stamina. He's won an Albert Bartlett. He's finished second in a Ryanair RSA, and he's won a Gold Cup. I think he'll go back to the Gold Cup and he'll go really close. You don't have form of 1-2-1 at the Cheltenham Festival, and I think he should be. I think he should be a shorter price than Galvin. Maybe not a shorter price than Aplutar, but I don't think there'll be a lot between them at the finish again. But I really like Manila Indo. He's got the Cheltenham form in the bag. Kempton wouldn't have suited. Ignore that, and you can ignore Down Royal as well, where he wouldn't have been fit. So he's drifted to a nice price for reasons that you can explain. The last race that I've highlighted a few is the Martin Pipe. Volcano, I think, will run here instead of the Pertemps. Doesn't seem to stay with the 3 mile trip, and they'll want to get compensation after falling at the first last year. Hata Duderie is a bit of a quiet one. Was a good winner at Warwick on hurdles debut, and then went to Cheltenham and finished 5th, but looked like he got outpaced. And he's the type of horse, and he's got the type of profile that turn up in the Martin Pipe. Having looked like at one stage they were aiming him at the Supreme Novice or the Ballymore, to end up in the handicap and then go well. Is this one of the JP plots? I've actually asked Icy Tentacles, I think his name's Geroid Norris. I apologise if I've said his name wrong. I've asked Icy Estro because he did a video with Simon Knott. Have you spotted a horse owned by JP that you think could be a plot? And we'll see if that question gets answered. 2 more to go. Kilcruit, if he was lame or sustained an injury turning in, he's run a really good race. And the fact that I've highlighted Journey for Me, or Journey With Me, and Manila Crooner for the Ballymore and Albert Bartlett respectively, if he turns up in the handicap, very interesting. Cheltenham Festival bumper runner-up to then end up in a handicap would be very interesting. And even if he carried top weight around, I think he's clearly he has ability. Just maybe there was excuses for his 2 defeats, despite being beaten at very, very short odds. The final horse, also for the Martin Pipe, is Amorite. Amorite's interesting wherever he runs, but I think the Martin Pipe is the type of race you could see him in. I thought his effort behind 2 graded horse, potentially future Grade 1 winners over hurdles, Journey With Me and Manila Crooner. Third was Kilcruit, who I think could win. Well, he's a Grade 1 winner and he could still be a Grade 1 horse. If he did sustain an injury, okay, we can forgive him that. Fourth was Amorite. Nobody noticed him at all because it was 50 to 1, not expected to run well. He's actually ran really well. The Martin Pipe would be very interesting. I wouldn't even mind seeing him go and run in a Grade 1 next. I don't think he'll win it, but then he could start to get a handicap mark, maybe that one or maybe one more, and get a handicap mark that totally underestimates him because he's finished 5th and 6th in Grade 1 events. So Amorite was the final one for the Martin Pipe. So that's all of my horses that I've highlighted for different races at Cheltenham so far. There's some that I've already backed. I will attach my Cheltenham Festival selections that I've done to my blog post, so you can see the blog post if you haven't been following that one as well. Thanks for listening. Let's hope the next couple of months is all good, and most of these horses do run at the Cheltenham Festival, and we don't get something that disappoints or turns up injured. A Constitution Hill being injured would be hugely disappointing. John Bon, as much as I am against John Bon because I've got Constitution Hill, my mate Mozzie and Sir Gerhard, if John Bon didn't turn up, it would be disappointing. Who else could we lose? We could lose Shishkin in the Champion Chase or Energumene in the Champion Chase. Again, something like that. Let's hope that we can get a lot of the Cheltenham horses to the festival to watch from a hugely personal and it's not greedy. I hope they all don't turn up. I hope Energumene doesn't turn up against Shishkin. I hope John Bon doesn't turn up against Constitution Hill. I hope A Plus Tard doesn't make it for the Gold Cup. Not because I want them to be injured or worse, but because I want my horses to win. And that's something I've mentioned previously, that I don't totally understand why people cheer on other horses after they've had a loser. Surely you want to win and make money. Isn't that what you have a bet for? But anyway, let's see what happens over the next few months. And Cheltenham is coming.